Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is the news at 7 on NTA International. We're live in Abuja. I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's start by bringing you the headlines. Federal Executive Council reassures Nigerians that the current economic recession will be short-lived. Nigeria begins 16 days of activism to mark International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. Plus, Senate to invite Minister over non-implementation of its resolutions on usage of communications gadget in the fight against crime. The Federal Executive Council has reassured Nigerians that the current economic recession bedeviling the country will be short-lived. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, stated this while briefing journalists shortly after the meeting of the Council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo will tell us all of it.
The National Bureau of Statistics recently reported a negative growth of -3.62% for the Nigerian economy in the third quarter of 2020. This is compared to negative growth of -6.1% reported in the second quarter of the same year. Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed, who briefed the Council on the situation, said although technically the country is in recession, there is indeed a 40% improvement in the performance of the economy over the second quarter. She said 17 economic sectors are not only showing resilience, but also maintaining positive growth, including agriculture, telecommunications, cement manufacturing, and the creative industry.
This third quarter report, though a contraction, is much better than we expected. It's also much better than was projected by the IMF and the World Bank. This COVID-19 recession follows a pattern across the world today, with almost every country that has reported its GDP going into recession. Bringing it closer home, the South African economy in the second quarter of 2020 reported a negative growth of 50%. This is compared to Nigeria's negative growth of -6.1% in the second quarter of 2020. The trend of improvement between the second quarter and the third quarter clearly shows that this recession will be short-lived, and it indicates that we could actually exit recession in the fourth quarter, or worst case, in the first quarter of 2021.
The minister described vigorous implementation of the Economic Sustainability Program as critical towards achieving the objectives of taking Nigeria out of recession.
The ESP implementation is really on course, is focused. It will help us to exit recession. It will help us reset the country back on the path of growth that is sustainable.
Payment of federal workers' salary, the minister said, will not be affected, and that there are also no plans whatsoever to either retrieve or revise the 2021 appropriations bill now being considered by the National Assembly in consultation with the executive.
On the border closure, Mr. President has set up a committee that I chair alongside with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and other ministers, including Interior, Customs, Immigration, the security services, to review and advise him on the issue of border closure. The committee has just completed its work.
The report of the committee, the minister explained, will be submitted to the president anytime soon, and until he decides on the next line of action, the nation's borders remain closed. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Also, the Federal Executive Council has approved about 40 billion naira for the maintenance of roads, as well as the control of soil erosion, flood and pollution across the country. State House correspondent again Adamu Sambo reports that the roads maintenance drive, in particular to be undertaken by FEMA, is in furtherance of the implementation of the Economic Sustainability Program. We don't have that report yet, but we'll definitely bring it for you in the course of the bulletin. But let's look at more issues arising from the economy. Federal government is working towards reversing the declining economic trend that caused Nigeria to enter into a recession. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, at the close of the 2020 Nigerian Economic Summit, said the COVID-19-induced recession has brought to fore the need for an all-inclusive approach to bring economic growth at par with population increase. Leah Katumba Batunde tells us more.
For 2 days, policymakers, economists, the business community, opinion shapers and development partners converged on Abuja and the cyberspace to brainstorm and explore ways to recovery for Nigeria. Emerging trends and ways to mitigate the downsides, they agree, are imperative for building a veritable economy. Action is the general consensus at the close of the 26th edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit.
Recently, our youths have spoken and we have heard. I want to urge this summit team that will be sending in a report to just underline what Madam Awoshika said, that we need to set up a thinking group of youths from the ward level to the local government level, to the state level, and to the national level.
Including our youth in the processes as solution finders because of their skills, their innovative minds. We also try to make the shift from empowerment to investment, or we see a way to blend it.
It doesn't stop at a handshake between policymakers and the private sector, as there was a campaign for legislative collaboration in meeting the desired change for growth.
A more holistic framework, and I think that is what you're talking about when you say redesign.
Yeah.
It is redesigning with evidence that we want.
It is this generation's task to look the impossible in the eye and make it possible.
Planning for the future and robust youth population, as well as gender inclusiveness, were prominent features during the engagements.
Today we live in a country in which, for federal government colleges, entrance exam or JAM, one state has a cutoff of X and another state has a cutoff of 10 times X, and you say you are building a nation. You are not.
No matter who you think you are right now, what position you occupy and what you're doing, if the nation doesn't work for all of us, we will all suffer.
Stakeholders departed with signals to unify efforts to see Nigeria emerge from the present recession by the first quarter of 2021. In Abuja, NTA News.
Well, actionable plans for short and long terms capable of rebirthing the global economy to deliver sustainable development post-COVID-19 have been presented to the world. Now, this was during a roundtable series of renowned economists convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports.
In the past 10 months, the coronavirus pandemic has precipitated one of the worst health, socio-economic and humanitarian crises in over a century, which the consequences are negatively impacting the lives and livelihoods of billions of people globally. The virtual meeting brought together influential thinkers, policymakers and economists to reflect and build on the outcomes of the first two roundtables in the series. Convener of the meeting, Antonio Guterres, wants real and foundational necessary change to assist developing countries solve their problems occasioned by the pandemic.
As a matter of fact, there has been a huge increase of liquidity in the world, but that liquidity has benefited developed countries. It has benefited middle-income countries with good access to financial markets that have good fundamentals.
Since those least privileged and poorest in society spend the most out of their incomes, inclusive growth is the only way to achieve sustainable economic growth.
For Nigeria's Amina Mohammed, who is the deputy scribe of the UN, the world is still far from where it should be as the world comes to the end of 2020 after the health crisis.
There is, a big conversation on how we need to move forward with proposals that have massive counter-cyclical stimulus measures, universal social protection floors, aligning our recovery policies and packages with the SDGs and the climate agenda.
Other recommendations include building a new global system founded on social and economic inclusion, equity and environmental justice. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
In the past 12 months, 243 million women and girls around the world have been subjected to sexual and other physical violence. Again, Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports that President of the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Volkan Bozkır, said this in a message as the world marks the 2020 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
While any woman or girl lives in fear for her safety, this is the time for men and boys around the world to stand up for what is right. This is the time to change our attitudes and norms in support of gender equality and an end to violence.
Annual international campaign kicks off on 25th November of every year to end the elimination of violence against women and runs until 10th of December. And as the global community mobilizes support and campaign against gender-based violence, African First Lady's Peace Mission has added its voice to the campaign against the menace. Linda Okorie-Igwe tells us more.
Available data shows that the outbreak of COVID-19 contributed to the increasing rate of gender-based violence, especially rape. Also, statistics shows that in some countries, calls to helplines have also increased fivefold, which are said to be insignificant. Stakeholders say the situation is alarming and calls for collective action against gender-based violence.
The Office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Mrs. Aisha Buhari, which this African First Lady Secretariat is part of her office, has been doing a lot. She has been talking about promoting the health and well-being of women and children under her Future Assured program, and the activities being organized here at the Secretariat of the African First Lady Peace Mission is an extension of the passion of the First Lady to see that violence against women is being eliminated.
The Nigerian Television Authority, ably led by the Director General Malami Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, decided to walk the talk, as it were, by launching a campaign which I consider a response. The essence of that campaign is for us to deploy the only resource we have, which is our platform.
African First Lady Peace Mission is fronting the campaign with the support of other development partners. Observing the Day of Eliminating Violence Against Women, experts call for stiffer penalty on perpetrators of the act, while victims have been encouraged to report cases of gender-based violence.
There's a lot of advocacy now, and people are beginning to come out and speak their mind. Before now, they are shy of coming out to say, but with advocacy and more enlightenment, people are getting to understand that when they come out, they really get the help that they require.
This event is very important. It creates an enabling environment for people to really understand, especially our younger ones, the need of talking out and speaking out about this violence against women.
The DCA team orient the word fund, respond, prevent, collect, unite to end violence against women. There is unanimous call for all to join the campaign so as to put an end to the menace by also educating the girl child and empower women. In Abuja, Linda Okorie-Igwe, NTA News.
All right, let's expand the discourse, and joining us in the studio is Temitope Lamidi, a human rights activist and president, West African Action Network on Small Arms. She's going to speak further on the issue of gender violence. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence kicked off today across the globe. What is the focus this year?
The focus is to resonate the subject that we cannot continue with this campaign and not be getting results. For over 30 years now, people have been on the streets complaining against gender-based violence, and all we can get in return is increase in the numbers. It shows something is not tallied. Something is wrong somewhere. What we are campaigning against now is that there must be prosecution. The governor of Kaduna State talked about castration for people that abuse their daughters or any kind of rape abuse. Up to today, I don't think anybody has been castrated. So I think it's high time we march. We need to march. We need to walk the talk. Enough of promises. Enough of promises. People need to get closure. People need to be prosecuted. We cannot continue to go around this circle. The problem with why the numbers are going up, there is no sincerity of purpose. That is what we have come to realize.
Okay.
In this, yeah.
Okay, and from what you're saying, since this advocacy and campaign on elimination of violence against women kicked off in 1991, from what you're saying, there's been no remarkable improvement in terms of statistics, to reduce all forms of violence against the female gender. What could be responsible for this?
For me, I think it's, like I said, and I'll reiterate it 1,000 times and even more, there was no sincerity of purpose. When we were going about this campaign, even seeking for institutions that are concerned with this, people that were even supporting us are not even in the front of this campaign. Somebody like maybe Honorable Jubele, Jimo, Honorable Ben Bakba, they have nothing to do with gender. The gender lady, the honorable member sharing the gender issue at the National Assembly, did not even have time to see us. A lot of people that are supposed to be championing this campaign, that have the resources to so do, they are not making enough noise. That's why we're not getting results. There's no sincerity of purpose. Security, you can't talk about gender-based violence and not talk about armed violence. It is the amount of weapons we have in the system that is making the numbers to even go up even the more. We've tried to see the vice president is the chairman, is the one chairing the press-com committee on this gun issue. We tried to give him early warning signals about the weapons that are coming, about a lot of things. We just can't reach him. We must bridge the gap between the citizens and those that are ruling us. Let's
look at solution way forward now. The Criminal and Penal Code provides for punishment for assault. Where do we go from here, from what you're saying?
Yeah, I'll just keep repeating myself. We might need plethora of laws in other areas, but I don't think concerning this gender issue. The laws that we have over 90 years now, even prescribe life imprisonment for rapists. It's not working. So what laws do we need? We just need to be sincere. We have a passion for denial in Nigeria. I wish we can really have time for reality. People cannot come out to speak because they have seen that when they come out to speak, they ask you some funny questions. How did you get there? What were you doing there? And if the next person saw that somebody beat the wife to death or somebody raped a girl and the person was not prosecuted, why would I want to come out? To be ridiculed? The society itself has an attitude of a rape apologist. Because if you rape somebody, the father that raped a girl or a boy that raped a girl, you blow his face while he's talking. We need the rape register to be made public. It is not a document of history. It's not a sacred document of history that should be kept. It should be made public. Let's know these people by face and by name so that people can stay away from them. Enough of the talk. We want results. People want results.
Okay, and the theme is Orange the World. What does this say to us?
I didn't hear you.
The theme for this year, Orange the World. What does this say to us?
Yeah, orange is a color that is attractive. United Nations shows the color because it's very feminine. And there was a girl that was killed, Babylon, was killed 2017. Yeah, and her favorite color was orange. They just put all this together and made orange the color for the day. It's very catchy. It sends the message. It's feminine. That's why the color orange was chosen by the United Nations.
And you look lovely in that orange. Thank you very much. All right, now we need to break the conspiracy of silence. While you ponder on that, let's go on a break. Back. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the federal government still demands an in-depth investigation from the American cable news network CNN over its recent reports on the shooting of peaceful protesters in Lagos. Lai Mohammed was discussing the aftermath of NSARS on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria. Oluseyi Adiakbo has details.
The minister emphasized that the government of Nigeria is standing its ground, that the report is neither balanced, fair, nor an accurate reportage of the Lekki toll gate incident.
We demand that CNN investigates that report because it's irresponsible, it's unfair, and that they should do the needful. But this is without prejudice to whatever decisions the federal government decides to take on the matter, because we won't sit by and allow CNN or any news organization to throw the country to another war based on fake news.
The government, is said, has been proactive in responding to the demands from the End SARS protest and reassures the present administration's commitment towards making governance all-inclusive. On regulation of social media contents, the minister said fake news threatens the peaceful coexistence and growth of any society, and Nigeria is not going back on plans to guide against the destructive influence of fake news in the country.
All we are saying is that fake news, disinformation, should not be allowed to destabilize our country. And we are not alone in seeking for regulation.
The information minister also explains that the current recession in Nigeria is inevitable as it is an aftermath of COVID-19, expressing optimism that it will not last long as strategies are in place to reverse it. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
On the legislative sense, Senate is to invite the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy over the non-implementation of its resolutions on how communication gadgets can be employed in the fight against crime. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo will tell us more.
The issue of national security once again came up on the floor of the Senate as an issue that needs urgent attention. But this time, the motion by Senator Emmanuel Buacha is particular on the use of communication gadgets in assisting security personnel prevent crimes and fish out culprits. And to achieve this, there is need for parliamentary interface with the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy.
Poor control over communication facility, this inability of our security apparatus and service providers to effectively manage this all-important sector. Bandits, terrorists, negotiate for ransom using telephones.
Ensure that he implements those provisions or those resolutions we have passed in the last Senate and in this Senate as well on how the communications subsector would aid in the fight against the insecurity that we have been facing.
Security issues continued with the second reading of the Nigerian National Commission against the Proliferation of Small Arms and Light Weapons Establishment Bill.
To combat illegal importation of small arms, ammunition and light weapons, enhance coordination and where possible harmonization of intelligence.
3 higher institutions establishment bills were passed. The Federal College of Education Mutumbiu, Taraba State, Federal University of Technology Manchok, Kaduna State, and the Federal Polytechnic Aba, Abia State, while that of the Federal University of Agriculture, Kaba, Kogi State, sponsored by Senator Smart Adeyemi, passed second reading. The revised Federal Capital Territory 2020 budget of 189.5 billion naira passed second reading.
This year we have seen a setback on the internally generated revenue, which necessitated this review.
The bill for the amendment of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act, which seeks to include law school as one of the beneficiaries of the TED Fund interventions, passed second reading. Senator Ishaku Abo, representing Adamawa North, defected from the PDP to the All Progressives Congress, citing conflicts in Adamawa PDP as reason for his defection. Senate has adjourned plenary to Tuesday, 1st of December 2020. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
On the global scene of COVID-19, the world agonizes over new COVID-19 curves as cases approach 60 million. And Ethiopia rejects international interference in Tigray conflict. Joyce Ometu brings us the details.
As countries around the world lament over coronavirus curbs ahead of Christmas and other holidays, global infections is approaching 60 million. In the United States, officials pleaded with Americans to stay home over Thanksgiving as the holiday weekend is expected to fuel a surge in infections in the region. Bulgaria said Wednesday it will close schools, restaurants, shopping malls and gyms until December 21st as it struggles to contain a rise in new coronavirus infections while preventing a strained health system from being overwhelmed. Germany has reported a record 410 COVID-19 deaths in the last 24 hours. It comes as Chancellor Angela Merkel meets the 16 federal state leaders to discuss restrictions for the Christmas and New Year holidays. Johns Hopkins University coronavirus tracker as at 6 p.m. Nigeria time showed that while the virus has killed 1,412,669 people globally, more than 41 million have recovered. In Africa, a total of 2,107,102 cases have been confirmed, out of which Nigeria accounts for 66,607. Away from the pandemic, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief said the crisis between Ethiopia's military and regional forces from the northern Tigray region is seriously destabilizing East Africa and hostilities should stop. On the other hand, Ethiopia has urged the international community to refrain from unwelcome and unlawful acts of interference in its affairs following calls to end the conflict in the northern Tigray region. On U.S. election, President-elect Joe Biden says the White House has so far been sincere in helping his transition to power. He spoke as he unveiled his choice of top officials for when he takes over from Donald Trump in January. And that's a global update. I am Joyce Ometu.
Football legend Diego Maradona, one of the greatest players of all time, has died.